Valak isn't ready to kick the habit. Here's your look at the new Star Ace. This is the Conjuring universe, the Nun Defo Real Deluxe version, open mouth variant. In The Nun, a prequel to the Conjuring films, the demon Valak takes the form of a nun and stalks the Holy Sisters of a Covenant in Romania, an ancient site that holds a dark secret and a portal to hell. The Valak open-mouth deluxe vinyl statue is about 15 centimeters or 6 inches tall and includes the nun's fabric costume, belt, and cross around her neck. Featuring articulated shoulders and wrists, the head rotates and the eyes glow in the dark. The deluxe version also includes a display base and an additional set of hands. Now it's time to double things up on this demonic demon, as we certainly have had a look at Valak before. Not necessarily this one, but we most definitely had a look at the closed-mouth version of Valak, which is pretty much going to be the exact same as this one with a different head swap out. I'll show you guys that in a second. Before we do that, though, I want to break down the 411, lay it to you simple, mister, that the figure stands 6.4 inches in height. And that, in centimeters, works out to be 16.4, almost 16.5 centimeters tall. Accessories to come included with the Nun Valak: you get yourself the display stand. Blinking once, blinking twice. You may think to yourself, am I experiencing a sense of deja vu? No, you're not actually. It is the same exact stand that came included with the closed mouth version. Though, I mean, you could look at them and say, yes, the placement of the cracks and little indentations, little chipped away pieces match one another. They are definitely identical, matched that way. I would almost even pose the question to you, if you look at them side by side, the one that came included here, this one right here with the open mouth version, seems slightly darker than this one right here. You could probably just chalk it up to the fact that I would imagine that these are all hand-painted pieces, that somebody has just been a little bit more generous with the dry brushing of black paint over top of it. You can see like little areas here, for example, that seem a little bit darker on this than on this one right here. Now, don't write that in the books that that's with every open mouth version. In fact, if you were to pick up this piece for yourself, stopping for a second to grab it, yeah, it's over on your desk. No, it's over there. Yeah, it's right next to your half-drank Coke. Yeah, it's right there. Okay. If you were to hold yours up to mine currently shown on screen, yours might even look a little bit different as well. And again, it's just the fact that these are likely hand-painted, that some of the details will stand out a little bit more on one stand than on the other stand. Needless to say, on the back of the display stand, we've talked a lot about this, I know already, there are some 4 rubberized feet, 4 in each of the corners. This is, of course, to prevent any scratching on surfaces. So if you put it on a tabletop or any place where you don't want those little smudge marks that get left behind when you are moving your display stands. I can't really imagine you're just pushing them down the table. You're probably very carefully picking them up anyways. But at least there are some rubberized feet on the underside to assist you on your little tiny journey of, like I said, moving it from one place to the other. Also, if you were playing Go Fish with your nun and you were to ask the player playing against you, do you have any scary portraits of the nun? They would currently be having one in their hand and they would have to hand over to match the 2 pairs together. You get yourself a pair. That's not obviously true. This one here comes with the open mouth version. This one here comes with the closed mouth version. But you can definitely see there is no difference between the 2. This would have been a great time, I feel, for Star Ace. Granted, yes, again, I know it's the painted portrait anyways, but if they had made a slight variation to this one so that the portraits did seem different from one another, and like I said, not samesies. There she is, creepy in the middle. But as you can see, they are made of just straight out cardboard. It's not the kind of cardboard that you would normally expect. If you ever had like paint by numbers, you know, those painting canvases that were kind of made of a denser cardboard. That is not only dating me to say that, but it also is my best way to describe the type of cardboard that they used. It's not quite foam board. It's not quite cardboard, but it's a very dense, very kind of packed pulp version of cardboard. That probably made no sense whatsoever. But needless to say, there is the portrait of Valak. I do like that if you look at it and tilt it slightly to the side, sort of this kind of cross-hatching that's done to the surface that kind of makes it look like a canvas. It's really clever the way they've done that. Now, in the same way, obviously, that the closed mouth version of Valak could do, this one also has the available means to be displayed with the canvas in her hand. One thing I was actually considering doing is, being that I do have the closed mouth version and the open mouth version, I was actually considering displaying one with the canvas in her hand. And that again is just pulled off by just sitting it onto the fingers like so. If you could pull it down just slightly as well, you could have a really demonic look of the nun, like I said, peering through that. It doesn't hold the painting very well, but it holds it well enough. If you aren't jostling it and moving it around, you could even have like the head slightly tilted to the side. And you could have even like the painting like that. Oh, that would look pretty cool. So there's a couple of different ways, of course, displaying the figure. You can go with or without the painting. With the painting or sans le painting. With or without hands. Wasn't that a U2 song? With or without hands? It was with or without you. But the nun also comes included with the same relaxed hands that also goes into her socket as well. Not the head socket, but of course the arm socket. You're just going to wiggle the existing hands off. And I'm just going to replace one in so you guys can see how it works. See that small little tiny peg? You're going to take this small little tiny hand and wiggle it on top of that peg. Just push it in like so. And there's the two variations of the hand. One a more relaxed looking hand, and one a little bit more aggressive, and certainly better suited for holding the painting in her hands. Obviously, you guys are going to want to see some comparisons, so we're going to bring in the regular closed mouth version of Valak. You can see that there is very big, stark differences between the two head portraits. The rest of her habit stays the same. There's nothing changing to that. The cross is the same, and everything that you expected to see on this one will make reappearances on the open mouth version. It simply just boils down to the open mouth versus closed mouths. Personally, if you look at the two side by side, the one with the open mouth, yes, most definitely is a little bit more scarier. The eye positioning is also lower as well. And I don't know if hopefully you can see it too, but even like the eyebrows are slightly more raised and a little bit more shaded per contrast to the original one that we had a look at. Honestly speaking, I kind of like the original one, the closed mouth version myself. If you prefer, though, your nun to be screaming, then this one certainly fits the bill. I had mentioned when we had a look at this one right here that it's some of the best paintwork I have ever seen on Starry's pieces, or for that matter, even on most collectibles. Imagine just the amount of little detail nuances that a painter would have spent the time to hand paint those little veins coming out from the forehead, coming down from the eyes and the areas around the mouth. It is, again, some of the best paintwork I have ever seen. This is certainly something that makes me really think that Starry should have been helming a 6-scale version of Valak based on how good this one turned out. Obviously, I had said all of that before when we had a look at the closed mouth version. So again, if you're experiencing that little tiny bit of deja vu, you would absolutely be correct, because I did actually mention all of that before. The same can really be carried over to the open mouth version. Though if you look at the two side by side, there's a lot more vein work that's being incorporated into the nun's face versus the original closed mouth. I don't really even want to say original, because there's releasing an open mouth and releasing a closed mouth. It's not the case that one was the original and then one is being a re-release. If you look at, though, the eyes, again, those are peering down. So if you could get the pose on this just right, where it's kind of having the head slightly tilted back and the eyes looking down at you, it's a very successful look. I think, though, the paint is a little bit nicer on the closed mouth version. Maybe it's because we're not seeing as many veins running through the skin here, which you get a whole lot more of that lightning effect cascading across her face. This one also does have some additional pink that this one does not have. You'll see a lot of it actually around the sides of her cheek, right above the lip area, and even around the nose as well, which does slightly change, obviously because the mouth is elongated and the mouth is completely now open. If we get a close-up look at the mouth again, look at the slick, wet slime that's been added to the teeth and the mouth and the tongue. That has just been accomplished by adding a clear coat over top of the fantastic paintwork that they've done. I think I feel like this one shows flaws a little bit more because, again, it incorporates a little bit more of that vein work. It seems more hand-painted, where I guess this one, I don't know if it's a little bit lighter, it's a little bit more fainter, but I like that there's more subtlety to those little veins running across the head, running across the face. That on this one, it stands out just a little bit more. I didn't mean to startle you. I realized later I probably startled you by jumping that back in. Nice shading around the eye area. It's kind of a combination of grays, blacks, and a little bit of purple that comes together really nicely. But here again is what I was talking about. You get a lot more of that pink making its appearances right down here, where the other one didn't actually have that. Of course, the rest of the outfit is all cloth. The top of the hat, of course, does have the hood, I should say, of the nun, does have that little wire frame. It runs around only the bottom section. It's not, of course, up here because it attaches to the rest of her head. You can't remove this. You can peel it back slightly, but I wouldn't peel it back too much for the risk, of course, it's going to cause some damage. The cross, which of course is only just more decoration than actually something that Valak actually believes in. The cross is done around the neck on an actual working cord. I suppose in theory you could probably pop this off and remove the cross altogether if you wanted to. I don't really know why you'd want to though. And then of course you've got the rest of the nun's habit. Just pop the hands back into place. Sometimes, if you aren't careful and you don't push those all the way in, the hands do pop out. But she does have some articulation, which we'll talk about in a second. The rest of the habit goes down into tying off with a faux leather belt, which we've looked at before as well. Nice stitch work done to just the sides and along the extra areas of the belt, which of course have been wrapped around the waist. Let me just show you. There it is on the other side. It does seem like it's all attached via Velcro. Again, I don't know why you would want to remove it, but it's just something I want to point out to you, that looks like it is a removable piece. And maybe it's probably because the body underneath might have been something that they've used before, or possibly even have plans to reuse again for another one of the Deform Reel series that Starries is producing. Last but certainly not least, we'll roll up her skirt just for a second, just to show you how the sculpting of the legs come together. Yes, there is articulation, and it's only articulation basically from the knees down. You can't bend them back and forth or anything like that. But I want to show you, like, with the hands and with the legs, these are, of course, would be things that would make a nun blush. But if you were to roll up both the sleeves and the skirting, you can see everything about it is finished. Really well done, actually, from Starries, that they went the route of fully finishing off everything from all of course, the limbs, like the arms, the limbs, like the legs. These are areas, of course, you wouldn't see, and yet they still went in there and painted everything, just even though you can't see it. The fact that they would do all of that is, again, really nice on their part. Okay, so let's have a look at the articulation on this one. If you have seen, of course, the review of the other one, thank you very much for checking that out. The articulation or the posability is the exact same on the open mouth version of Valak. The head moves back and forth. You can rotate it back and forth this way, and you can also move the head quite actually considerably high up also as well, or about that low down. There is no waist articulation. We've already looked at the leg posability. And as for the arms hinge out at a little less than a 90-degree angle. You can move them forward, you can move them back. He or she, depending on how you want to consider it, does have rotation in the arms where it's attached to the elbows. There's that articulation point right there. And you can also move the hands all the way around as well. So really, for its size, something that would be deemed more a staction deformed figure actually does have quite a bit of posability when it's all said and done. Again, just to bring in the closed mouth version, let me know down below which one you actually prefer. The open mouth is a nice touch because it does look different enough from the original closed mouth Valak. It wasn't the case where one was a glow-in-the-dark eye, one wasn't a glow-in-the-dark eye. So there's enough separation to them that if you already picked up this one, you would still have an inviting reason to pick up this one. Personally speaking, I like this one more. I just like the look of the closed mouth. But if you do like the open mouth, I like the fact that Starrace does give you the option, the choices to be made, whether you want to get one or the other, or like myself, you actually have both of them now in your collection. Again, it really does make me wonder if Starrace could have only produced the 6-scale version of Valak. All this talking that I'm doing right now is while the shipment of the QMX version of the 6-scale version of Nun is coming to my doorstep. And as soon as that one comes, I feel as if I'm probably going to be doing a comparison side to side. This one is smaller in size, squatter in size with a larger head, yes. But I feel as if this has a much better paint job than what QMX was able to pull off on their 6-scale release of the Nun. The only way we'll know that for certain is we'll have a look at that figure when, of course, it arrives, and we'll do maybe some comparisons with the Nun that Starrace has produced, and you guys can see for yourself. Now, one thing I did leave off in this review that I did show you guys in the closed mouth version was the fact that she does have the light up eyes. Simply, you're only just going to put the eyes next to a light source, let those eyes absorb the energy, and then when you cut the lights, you'll be freaked out by 2 glowing peepers staring right back at you. That is, of course, short term, and those will exhaust their stored energy rather quickly. But it's a nice effect, and providing, again, you display your Nun near a lamp or light source, you're pretty much going to be guaranteeing yourself that you're freaking out every single time you turn off the lights and head upstairs. You'll think it's Max the cat and realize that Max the cat's already gone off to bed, until you realize quickly, whew, it's just the Starrace, the Nun. Until you realize she was at the other side of the room. Wait, what happened? The Nun is a nice looking figure, smaller in size, of course. With the Defo Real, you're getting super deformed figures with larger heads, smaller bodies. And I get the fact that that's not going to appeal to everybody. One thing that was pretty unanimous with the review that I looked at for the closed mouth version is while not a lot of people liked maybe smaller scaled super deformed figures, there is a small niche market like myself of collectors that enjoy the super deformed look. But if that isn't necessarily your thing, the unanimous opinion was that it was a fantastic head sculpt. If again, they could have used that same head, used the same skill set of paint that they applied to that face and put it onto a body proportionately scaled to that head, you would have had one fantastic looking Nun. As it stands, smaller, yes, she is. Deformed, yes, she is. And whether you decide to go the closed mouth version or the open mouth version that we had to look at in this review, you do have to say, I'll hopefully agree with me when I say that this is some of the best paintwork I've ever seen Starrace produce. I do prefer, though, the closed mouth. I think it looks a little bit more realistic. It's softer and subtler in the paint applications, and I think it makes it look closer to the film. Plus, again, I just like the look of the closed mouth Nun. There's something that freaks me out a little bit more of seeing that, because I don't know really what Valak has planned versus the open mouth. But the cool thing about it, though, is that Starrace has produced the Nun in 2 distinct ways. Making use of the same accessories, sure. Making use of the same body, absolutely. But giving us a very drastic change of head portraits guarantees that collectors and fans of the Nun and the Defo Real series from Starrace will be more inclined to want to pick up both versions because they are very, very different from one another. Let me know down below in the comments section, mob members, which one you prefer more, the closed mouth version of the Nun or the open mouth version of the Nun. Also, if you're a big fan of Starrace, there's a playlist that you can watch alongside of this video. I think the playlist basically start up, probably on the right side of the screen. As soon as you're finished watching this one, you can sit back with a bucket of popcorn, maybe perhaps a tall glass of cold lemonade, and you can watch the remainder of all my reviews, where we've looked at various Starrace products over the last couple of years. A big thank you, by the way, to the folks over at Starrace who were nice enough to not only send the open mouth version of Valak, but also the previously looked at closed mouth version that we had to look at in another review, the previous review to this one. If you guys are also new to this channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button down below, turn the bell notification on, and keep those glowing green peepers peeled to this channel until, of course, your energy in those eyes exhausts themselves and you have to stick your face in front of the lamp again. Don't do that. That's not healthy for your eyes. Stay tuned, because of course there's going to be a lot of videos coming soon to this channel. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.